And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Sastry, bringing you all the latest news in regards to your North Carolina Tar Heels. It's a wonderful day. Yes, it is. As we have officially started college basketball today. Today is the opening tip-off of the 2025-26 North Carolina Tar Heel basketball season. The women's team kicked off early today. Jeremiah will be at that game. And he will have your post-game coverage after the conclusion of the women's basketball team. They'll be playing North Carolina Central at 11. And by the time this is already uploaded, that game is already up. It's being broadcast at ESPN Plus. If you're at home, maybe you have an off day from work, maybe you're working from home today. That game is on ESPN Plus. If you haven't, make sure to go check it out. And then, he's going to have post-game coverage. And then also, I will be at the game tonight. For the men's game, I'll be there against Central Arkansas at 7 p.m. The game will be broadcasted on ACC Network. It will be the official debut of Caleb Wilson. Of course, the previous two were debuts. Of course, but the BYU game was a debut technically, but it was a preseason game, so it didn't count. So this is a first official debut, of course, along with a bunch of other guys like Henry Vassar and Kai Devins. And, if you think about it, the only guys returning from last year is Seth Trimble in terms of guys who have, played meaningful minutes on the court. So it's a basically brand new team. Outside like James Brown and, Zane High. And Zane High, technically, he really didn't play that much because remember he transferred to Arizona after the whole fiasco with him. Not going to go too much into detail about it, but it's been settled. If you know what I'm talking about. He went to Arizona, then transferred back to UNC. It was a weird situation all around. So really just technically one guy coming back from last year that played meaningful minutes. So brand new team, brand new vibes. And the vibes are really good right now, right? And of course, things could change as the season goes along, but right now, there is a quiet confidence at the Smith Center. There is a quiet confidence. And that's because they're a much better team than they were last year. They're a much bigger team than they were last year. Last year you had a bunch of guys who were under 6'5" playing last year. Matter of fact, Seth Trimble at times played this 4, right? Those are reserved for guys who are like 6'7" and above, right? So much bigger team. You got 6 guys who are at 6'10" or over. You have better shooters on the team this year. Better rebounders on the team because you're taller, right? This will be a much better rebounding team than it was last season. And then, of course, you have Caleb Wilson, who is a phenomenal basketball player. We'll get to him in a second. But let's talk about, the strengths and weaknesses of this team, along with a record prediction, right? The strengths of this team, as I mentioned, I kind of mentioned already like the versatility in the sense, but depth, versatility, and three-point shooting. Carolina is really deep. They can go 9-10 deep. They got guys they have a lot of guys who are experienced. Henry Vassar, Kai Evans, Jonathan Powell, Jaden Young. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of guys who are experienced on this roster. And also they are versatile. A lot of this is a taller team than was the year before. So if Luka Bogovac is playing today, for example, let's say, because I think he will come back eventually sometime this season. Might not be until December. But let's say Luka Bogovac could play right now. Your lineup would be Kai Evans, who's 6'2", Seth Trimble was 6'3", but then Luka Bogovac is 6'6", Caleb Wilson 6'10", and Henry Vassar is 7 foot, right? Jaron Stevenson, who is currently starting at the 3 right now, ahead of Luka Bogovac, because of course we all know about, Luka Bogovac still has to get cleared, But on the court at that moment in time, you have three guys who are 6'10", right? And then Derek Dixon coming off the bench, he's 6'5", right? You also have, James Brown and Zane High, who are both 6'10". Jaden Young, 6'4". I mean, this is a much taller team than it was the year before. And that is really beneficial for the Tar Heels because, Huber said this a bunch of times. He wanted to bring in a bunch of tall guys, right, who could rebound. But not only guys who can rebound, but can play defense, can shoot the ball well. I mean, there are 4 or 5 guys on this team that shot 35% or over in conference play last year from beyond the arc. So you got a lot of capable three-point shooters, right? 4-level scorers, right? Hubert called Jared Stevenson a 4-level scorer, which means you could score in the paint, you could score 3-pointers, you could score off free throws, and I believe mid-range. You could score in the paint, mid-range, 3-point, and free throw shooting. And that's what we call Jaron Stevenson. And there's a lot of guys on that team right now, right? Henry Vassar is a good example of a 4-level shooter, right? Kyan Evans, same thing. Caleb Wilson, same thing. Even though Caleb Wilson right now still needs to work on a 3-point shot, it's one of those things where if you could get in rhythm, he can. I mean, once he develops it, he'll be deadly, right? Because right now it's still kind of a work in progress, but if he could develop like a little nice 3-point shot, I mean that's a scary thought. So you got depth, versatility, and 3-point shooting. Your weaknesses are right now is that you really are not settled with a point guard right now, and then also there's really a lack of a backup center or a backup 5 for the Tar Heels at the moment. Kyan Evans, has been underwhelming in the exhibition games, right? And although he has time to truly, and I think a lot of it is just because of chemistry, right? He's a new guy on the team. He's still trying to figure out who's who on the team, even though there's a lot of new guys on the team. As a point guard, you got to have a feel for who is playing around you, what's going on, and yada, yada, yada. And he's on a new team with a bunch of really new faces. So everyone's trying to get to learn each other better. And, he hasn't really been all that great. I mean, he's averaged 5 points a game, 5 points, 3.5 assists, 2 rebounds, and steal and a half in the 2 exhibition games. But his shooting really hasn't been all that great. 36.4% from the field, which isn't really good at all. I mean, and then 28.5% from beyond the arc. So he's struggled shooting, and he's also struggled, trying to be the team's point guard at the moment. But I think something I think he'll settle down soon, and eventually he'll start playing his best basketball. But Derek Dixon is another guy, great size. Like as I mentioned, he's 6'5", and he's a great 3-point shooter. However, he still is going to be a project because he's still got to get used to playing at the collegiate level. He shot 3 for 11 from the field and 2 for 7 from beyond the arc. And one of the biggest reasons why he shot 3 for 11 from the field is because most of his shots have been 3-point shots, right? 7 of his 11 shot attempts have been 3-pointers. So he needs to find more efficient shots in general because he's a great 3-point shooter. However, he needs to find more efficient shots so he can get points on the board for the Tar Heels. And then also mentioning the lack of a backup center, Zane High. He had a solid showing against Winston-Salem State, but Winston-Salem State is a Division II school, and then when he won against BYU, 0 points, 0 rebounds, and 3 turnovers in 4 minutes played. And also, he doesn't really have the physicality needed to be a 5. He probably fits more of a 4 than he does a 5. And James Brown, kind of the same thing. Although he's bigger than Zane High, and you can clearly tell he's worked on his body over the offseason. But he really hasn't had nothing to show for yet. Against BYU, 2 turnovers and 2 fouls in 3 minutes played. Right? And you have Central Arkansas today, so maybe things could change against Central Arkansas. But remember, you're going against the Kansas team on Friday. And I was looking at the guys who Kansas is playing meaningful minutes. That's a big team. And Bill Self has always done a great job with guys in the interior. Kansas always is great on the interior. They're always going to be physical. They're always going to give you their all. They're always will. They've always, and really Kansas has always been a strong team on the inside, but especially under Bill Self. So they're going to have their work cut out for them. Really, it would be kind of scary to see if UNC's front court, if they struggle against Kansas' front court, it'll be a long season. Although I think Caleb Wilson and Henry Vassar would be fine. I'm more worried about the guys behind them. Like, you need a backup center. Yes, Sharon Stevenson could play the 4 and the 5 if needed to. But you would rather have, a solid centerpiece behind Henry Vassar, which could either be Zane High or James Brown. So hopefully we see that in this week. It starts this week, right? You get Central Arkansas tonight, and of course you get Kansas on Friday night. So those are the strengths and weaknesses of North Carolina. And like I said, I was going to give predictions as well. I also had an article up already. It's already up on the site, so make sure to go check it out. So it has all my predictions, basically everything I said. Everything I said. It's just in written format. But regular season, I think North Carolina is going to go 25-6. Like, they're going to be a 25-6 or 26-5 team. But I do think they're going to lose 5 games in ACC. I think they're going to finish with a 13-5 ACC record. Remember, the ACC cut down its games from 20 to 18 this year. And I think their regular season losses, I think it will be at Kentucky. It will be at SMU, because I think SMU is going to be a strong team this year, and they're going to be a tough get. At Virginia, because if you look at recent years, and really just in the last 10 to 15 years, UNC has always struggled in Charlottesville. So I just took that into account. And also, Virginia is going to be a much better team than they were last season. I believe they're going to lose at NC State. That place is going to be raucous, especially with Will Wade under the helm. I think NC State is going to be a much, much, much better team than they were last year. I think that's a sneaky dark horse in the ACC this year as well. I think they're going to lose at home to Louisville, and I think they'll lose their last game of the year at Duke. Although we have seen North Carolina pull out. Also, just keep this in mind. When I mean at Duke at senior night. So, and I had a hard time. I was wondering if they're gonna lose to Duke at home and then win on the road at Cameron. And the reason why I say that is because historically, North Carolina loves spoiling Duke on senior night. They love doing that. Just the Tyler Hansbrough game in 2006. I mean, Coach K's last game. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I was kind of factoring in history there too, but I'm like, I think they'll lose at Duke and win at home. Right. So, but in the SEC tournament, I had them losing in the semifinals. I think they'll be a top 3 seed, but I think that they'll lose top 3 or top 4 seed. I do think they'll lose in the semifinals. And then in the NCAA tournament, I have them going to the Sweet 16 at least. I think this is a Sweet 16 team. Can they be a Elite 8 team? I don't know all that yet. I think looking at them now, they're definitely a Sweet 16 team. But I just don't know. I still have to see more of them before I can even say, oh, they're an Elite 8 team. But we'll find out really in the first 2 months of the season. I mean, I already mentioned that you got Kansas on Friday, right? You have to go to Kentucky to play the Wildcats, number 9 team in the country, at Rupp Arena on December 2nd. Then you have to go play. Oh, and before that, I forgot to mention, you play number 22 Michigan State at the Fort Myers Classic on Thanksgiving Day. And then, of course, you also have Ohio State. You'll be playing Ohio State in Atlanta at the CBS Sports Classic. And then also, I think Georgetown might be a sleeper team too. Throw it in there for the non-conference slate. They actually beat Kentucky in an exhibition game. However, Kentucky was without 2 or 3 of their best players. So you have to factor that in as well. But I do think they'll finish with a final record of 29-8, which is a significant improvement compared to last season where they went 23-14 and also barely made the tournament, right? There's a lot of controversy about the Tar Heels making the tournament last year. And, of course, they lost in the first round to Ole Miss. But that's going to wrap up my predictions and strengths and weaknesses episode of the Tar Heels Insider podcast. This will really be my last basketball preview podcast because, of course, the season starts tonight, and I'll be there on site. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm your host, Grant Sashere, Lee Ride, North Carolina Tar Heels on SI, and, of course, the host of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast.